All right. So this webinar is to look at the annual grant activity report. This replaced the narratives that you used to enter narratives into the JCMS quarterly. Starting last year, we decided to go with an annual narrative report format in lieu of those 4 narratives. Last year was the first year that we did this, so we didn't really give a lot of feedback last year. We listened to the questions, the comments, the concerns, and then we changed some things this year based on that. And so this webinar is to kind of go over what we are hoping to get from these, the changes that we made, and then hear if you guys have any additional questions. So we did create a guidebook that goes with this. It is on our website already. It's very similar to the RFA, if you've ever looked at the RFA or to apply for the grant, where we give you what the field on the narrative is and then what we define it as or what we hope to get from that information. So I'm going to share, hopefully. Okay. So with the annual grant activity report, one thing that we did change this year is if you receive a CBA and a JS grant, this year you only need to submit 1 report and just make sure that all the grant numbers are listed, and if the information is different below, that everything is submitted for both the grants that are there. So if you have a CBA and a JS grant, just make sure that everything is there for both of them. This year they're due on August 14th. If you want to get them to us sooner, that's great. There's some instructions in here that talk about how to do the, if you have more than 1 grant. So for example, you can copy and paste this program table as many times as you need to. So if you have a CB grant, you would just click CB, list out program title and all this information. If you have both, you would click to copy and paste a new table in, and then you'd put the JS box, and then you would fill in the rest of the information. If you have the same program type, or the exact same program, excuse me, listed that's funded both in CBA and JS, which is fairly common, the number of referrals will probably be the same. The amounts might be different. You need to put them on both program tables, but you only need to do 1 narrative. So if you fund diversion through both CB and JS, we would only see 1 diversion narrative, but we would see diversion on both program tables. One of the questions that came up quite a bit last year was with regard to the amount requested at the time of the award and the amount expended. That might not line up exactly. For some of you who've moved monies around at the end of the year or mid-year, the amount requested at the time of the award would be what you requested back when the grants were due. And then the amount expended would be whatever you spent for the year. So if you wound up moving money around, still give us the original amount requested. And then if it's higher in the amount expended category, we'll know that you moved money into that category. Similarly, if you moved money out of the category, we'll be able to see by looking at the totals whether it was we didn't spend all our money or we moved money out. We will provide data again for the tables that are down at the bottom, which we'll get to in a second, which this was the other area that confused quite a few people. The data that we provide that will go in the tables down below, but the number of referrals entered and the number of youth discharged, you should go in and pull from JCMS yourself. The user guide has step-by-steps, but I'll show you here now too, so that we are all on the same page. I logged in earlier, so none of you had to see me type in my password. So when you go into the JCMS under the reports button, if you go down to case summary by date and put in the referral date and end date, which for this particular activity report would be July 1st of 22 through June 30th of 23. So let me do a future dates. So we'll just do that. Did the preview screen button come up for everybody? Okay, good, it did. I never know if it shows up on a screen share or not. You scroll down, I don't know how many of you will have all those at the top. This is a test system, so you'll be able to see by agency name and case type the number that were referred and the number that were discharged. For project leads, you should be able to see anybody that you have tied to your certificate through the multi-agency. If you are an individual program, you would just see whatever you have permission for. So this is where we would hope that you would get the referred and discharge from. If you run this report and the numbers look a little bit off, I would reach out to the programs and make sure that it's accurate before you submit the report. Right. Does anybody have any questions on that before we move forward on any of what we've covered so far? If you've never run a report in the JCMS, there was an option for preview and an option for download. Download will kick this out in an Excel format. Preview brings up this screen. You have the option to download from the bottom. The thing with the preview report is if you click off of this white box anywhere, it closes and you've got to start over. Peggy, what's your question?
So on that cover page where it's a CB or JS, what about the EB supplemental? Is it a whole separate document or is that included in this?
So I realized that this morning. Last year we just combined CB and EB because we didn't have the supplementals last year. And so anybody who received an EB, it was tied into the CB. So I will probably wind up modifying this template and sending it back out again and add an EB box. But it would be similar where you would just need one report. You would just have a box for CB, a box for the EB, only if you received supplemental. If your EB was from the original application, it was tied into your initial CB. So,
okay, thank you.
Yeah, I had that thought this morning. I was sitting here thinking, was this the year with the supplementals? And my dates, yeah, it was a different type of a year. So we forgot that one. All right, I'm going to go back to the application. All right, the way we had envisioned this working, and if this works for your county, that's great. If it doesn't, then figure out what works for you, was that the people who were running the programs or working with the youth would be the ones filling out the activity narrative. So since Peggy was just asked a question, I know that she does not do the attendance support program for her county. So we had envisioned her filling it out for her program and then giving this narrative to that person to fill out for the truancy program. If you're a county that funds multiple programs with different providers, you may wind up sending this narrative out to quite a few people and getting it back and then piecing it back together. We thought in our minds that was easier than somebody on the fringe of the program or just knowing just a little bit about the program, trying to complete these questions. They're very similar to what's in the grant application. I'll draw your attention to number 3 as the goals that you entered on the as they relate to the goals on the grant application. So you may have to look back to the grant application, see what goals are listed. Number 4 was asked on the 24 year grant, not the 23, but we did want to see how this year, in relation to what you were hopeful would happen for the next year, and see how the steps and outcomes that were met. Just like noted here on question 5, and it says it in the guidebook too, anyone that you mark up here, you do need to describe down here. So we saw it done a number of different ways on the application. It's honestly easier for everybody to just say, like, reduction of illegal activities, this is how we met it. Increase in school attendance, this is how we met it. We had some people write us beautiful flowing paragraphs and we could not match their points. Like, it all sounded really good, but we weren't sure which outcome they were specifically mentioning. So that being said, if you did target more than one of these, please include it all, even though it provides more work for question 4. We don't want you shortchanging yourselves in your programs, because we know you guys are doing amazing work. Down here, question 11 is the data that I was discussing earlier. We will get you a spreadsheet from the JCMS that's got all this broken down already by program type. You'll just need to copy and paste it into the appropriate column. We did change age a little bit, like when you receive your data extracts, it will not say under 10, it will have all the ages from whatever listed. So you will have to do a little bit of math and combine those. Do not delete any of these fields. So for example, if you didn't have anybody 19 and over, put a 0 or a dash. Don't delete it. Don't leave it blank. Leaving it blank, we're not sure if you forgot to put it in. Deleting it kind of alters the format of everything, but also we want to be able to look very quickly and say, okay, they did not have any youth over 19. While the grant is targeting ages 11 to 18, it is okay to have 10 and under and 19 and over on occasion. So don't think that you're going to get in trouble if you have a couple here and a couple there. We know that it happens. We would rather youth be served than turned away. But just put this stuff from the Excel sheets in here. The non-binary field was added. I don't believe it was available in 2021, so you probably won't see that at all in that year. Similar to the Hispanic Latino category was added new this year. So you'll have it for 22, 23, but not the other 2 years. We understand that. We're the ones that put those in the system. So last year we pulled the data up mid-June because we weren't sure how long the process would take. This year we're waiting until after July 15th to give programs time to go in and close out cases or update cases. So we'll be sending the data mid-July. Since it is just a copy and paste, we're hopeful that it won't delay. We'll still give you 4 weeks until the report is due. If you have open cases, just let us know why. It's very common to get a referral, in May or June that you're still serving in July, and that's fine. Just let us know that. This question is supposed to just kind of prompt you to look back and make sure that they are kids you're still serving and not cases that were left open by mistake. Any questions on that part?
Erin, this is Kelly Munoz. I would just have a question. Do I need to do, since I have 4 counties, do I need to do a separate one for each county or just one?
Okay, so this came up last year. Let me see if I remember. The data tables, we will need one for each county. Whether you put in, so like for your diversion program, there would be, you said 4 counties, right? Yeah. So there would be 4 tables, 4 gender tables, 4 age tables, 4 race and ethnicity tables. If it's easier for you to do a different narrative for each county, that's fine. I know a lot of the goals are similar and the outcomes and efforts in that are similar across the county, since it's you that's doing it in all the counties. But if you just do one narrative for diversion and put in all the different data tables, make sure you tell us which county it is somehow, so we can keep track of that. What was I going to say? There was something else.
Hey, I'm in a
that.
meeting. Can I call you back? Okay, bye.
If you have issues or challenges, let us know exactly which county that's in. So like question number 6 is unanticipated challenges. Question 7 is how can we help you with those challenges if it's something we can help you with. And then number 8, anticipated changes. So like for you specifically, Kelly, if Holt County has run into an issue where you need to add a different curriculum to your program, but that's only for Holt County, just say in Holt County XYZ, we don't anticipate this change in the other counties or something like that. So we know exactly which county, because if it's something we need to help you with, we kind of need to know exactly where we're looking.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anybody have any other questions? All right. Also new this year, we added a separate specific narrative for system improvement programs. So if your county funds a system improvement program, so that would be your grant writers, backbone support, if you funded trainings, evaluations, that kind of thing, you have a separate system improvement activity narrative to fill out. The questions are different than the ones above. We should not see, or we should see information very specific to the system improvements in here because of that. You'll note that questions 3 through 7 are underlined and it says a specific program type and then only. So if you were a county who funded a training program only, you would fill out the information right here, and then you can just put NA in the rest of these so that we know that which program type it was. If you fund more than one system improvement program or service, we need to see a separate narrative down below. Don't try to squish it all into one. The data section is a little bit different. So all system improvement programs are supposed to be entering into the system improvement screens, which is separate from where you enter your individual level youth data. And the way that you would pull this information, let's switch back to the JCMS. All right, so if you fund a system improvement, if you enter for a system improvement program, you'll see the system improvement button. When you click on that, it will show you the reporting period and the program types that were listed. Again, this is a test system, so I usually just pick the counties right at the top when I'm testing, but you can sort this field right here, which I would recommend if you're looking for the most recent reporting periods, and you can see, okay, this one, I had a training quality improvement in 4th quarter, I had a training quality improvement in 3rd quarter, and then you would come back to your narrative and put an X in the yes column because you saw it, or a no. And then let us know why there's a no, because as I said, everybody who has a system improvement program funded should be entering into that system. One reason I can think of for a no would be if you're funding training and it is set for February, then you're not going to have anything in quarter 1 or quarter 2. But then you'll have information for quarter 3. Let me see. Patrick, I saw that your hand was up. Did you have a question?
Hi, Erin. Yes. So I had a question in regard
Mhm.
to the numbers that you mentioned. So we'll be reporting the referrals received between July 2022 to June this year. But I mean, in our mentoring program, we have cumulative numbers that, let's say, we have had them in the system from 2021 and they're still open up to now. They're active. Do we report those or just focus on this period?
Just this period.
Okay.
I can't remember now. I looked at last year's data extracts and I can't remember for sure, but I seem to remember that maybe the kids who are active in that time frame will show under like age, race, gender. So your referral numbers may not match your open cases number.
Yes.
Which is exactly like you just described, especially with mentoring programs. The idea is to keep them in for an extended period of time. So I'm pretty sure that's how the data looks. I will be the one sending out the data extracts to everybody, so I will look at it before I send it and include a little bit of information in the email when it goes out.
Okay, thank you.
And I mean, that's all there is for the system improvement narratives at the bottom. If your county doesn't fund a system improvement program, you can ignore that table altogether. These are emailed back to Chris in our office, again, by August 14th. If you want to put it in a PDF, that's fine. If you want to leave it in Word, that's fine. We'll take it either way. If the formatting gives you issues, which I know that's happened with our grant applications sometimes, let me know and I'll see if I can help with any tips. I mean, I spent most of the morning formatting a Word document, so I don't know that I'm the best person to ask, but I can certainly give you the pointers that we've discovered along the way. I'm gonna
Can I
stop.
ask another question?
Yep.
Sorry, on that. So when on that where it says the expenditure, so if I moved the total dollar amount from, say, mediation to a different line, so amount expended for mediation was actually 0, but we moved it all. So is it that total amount that was expended, but it was moved up into a different category, or how do you define that?
So if you had a situation where you didn't expend any money on that item and you moved it over, the total at the bottom, here, I'll go back to the, I realized I stopped sharing. The total here should still equal, you know, what you requested and what you expended should be the same. And I'm reviewing these. Chris, Jesse, Amy, we're all looking at them. Jesse will know because she's the one helping you guys with that, what the situation is. If there's something that we're confused on, we'll reach back out.
Okay.
But yeah, and that happens.
Well, because the expended amount in the one is going to be more. So I don't want to show that it was, used in that
Right.
one when it was actually used in another.
Right. Yeah. If you moved it, report it as like if you spent half of what you requested, put that what you expended, and then the other one, wherever you moved it to, will be higher.
Okay.
It should balance out in the totals. And we say all the time, when you write your grant applications in November or December, we're asking you to predict the number of kids you're going to wind up serving 6 months to a year later. And things shift. Mediation and ATDs are great examples of that. Some years you're through the roof on them, and the next year you might only get a couple of referrals. So I wanted to share with you what the guidebook looks like. It's fairly similar to the other guidebooks that we have or the RFAs. Scooch some things around on my screen. Like I said at the beginning, it'll have the definitions, what we're looking for. There's a couple of examples. So if you are a county who receives CB and JS, or as Peggy pointed out, we need to update and add the EB in there as well. If you have the same program title, it would be listed on both, and then any additional different programs would be listed there as well. This is all made up information. The two walkthroughs of the JCMS that I did are here in the back, with Appendix A is how to get to your referrals and discharges. Appendix B is how to get to the system improvement screens. If you want, you can delete the system improvement narrative if you don't fund one, but don't delete the number of rows in that data column. You also can add rows in the tables if you need to. Like, we only give you a handful in the table to start with. Make sure I'm sharing. Okay. We only give you a handful of rows. So just a quick, if you fund more than 3, you can take this example line out. We don't want to see that in there. But if you fund more than 3 programs, for those of you who don't know, you right click anywhere on one of these rows and insert row below or above, whichever you're putting it in. And it'll give you more rows. Similarly, if you only fund 1 or 2 programs and you want to take them out, you highlight the rows you don't need, right click, and then delete cells, delete entire row. And it'll shift them around. We do not have this set up to total it for you, so you will need to do some math in there.
Hey, Aaron, I have a
Sorry.
question.
We'll work on that for next year. Yes, Terry.
Will Amplifund show us those amounts? If I have switched money from one category to another, I didn't look, what I saw, I'm not sure Amplifund actually shows that. That's what because I thought I could go to my Amplifund report and I should be able to then see what my first funding was, and then when I added something to it, a total there, and then my expenses, but I don't think it does that. I'm not sure, I couldn't figure it out.
Hey, Terry, this is
Yeah.
Jesse. What you can do is you can go to your budget in Amplifund and you can check the line items and the remaining amount, and it will show you what the current budgeted line item amount is, and then what you've spent and what you have left. So if you compare that to what you originally had in your budget, you should be able to have all the numbers that Aaron needs. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, I think so. And I think that's
Okay.
what when I looked at it last time, because I was thinking it would just show that I had X number of dollars in there from what I carried over, and it would show that it carried over, but I don't think it does. I think it just gives one amount.
Yeah, I mean, there is a way that you can see any changes you've made, but it's not as nice and neat as I think you would want it to be. So I think the easiest way is to just find your original amount that was on your application and then go look at the current amount.
Okay,
And that's
Alright.
going to show you any change.
okay, all right. If it
And you
shows
can call me
negative-
if you have any questions when you get into
Okay,
it.
yeah, I was gonna.
Okay.
If it has a negative in front of it, does that mean that I don't have money in that expense line?
If it's
I
in red,
Oh, if it's in red, okay. All right.
the
so
variance
no.
is just what's left.
Okay,
So if it's in red, that means you're in the red. You know what I mean? So
okay, because I just have, some of them have a negative mark in front of them.
yeah,
It's black, the number, so, okay,
that just means how much you have left.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
Sounds good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jesse, because I'm not in Amplifund enough to know the answer to that question. Does anybody else have any other questions? One thing that came up last year, there are some agencies that receive funding in multiple counties. You do need to complete one for each county you receive funding in. And if there are also a handful of agencies who where the agency receives the JS grant, but they also receive CBA dollars through the county, those agencies need to complete one for their JS grant and submit it, and then also work with the project lead for the county to get the CB1 submitted. So if it's the same program, it's gonna be duplicative, but for those in that situation, that's we haven't figured a workaround for that just yet. Additionally, sorry, I just keep thinking of other things. Please don't put youth names in here. There's a section for challenges. There's also one for relevant information or achievements. I love reading the success stories. I love talking to you guys and hearing about all the great things that you're doing for the youth in your communities, but please don't put the youth names in here. We don't want the names. De-identify them, initials. A young woman is one we saw last year. We had somebody who said a young woman came to our program. That's great. That doesn't keep, or that keeps the youth information protected from us. Also, just we want you guys to be very honest in these, but again, know that we are outside of us. I don't know who would read them, but there's a chance that somebody else within our agency would look at them, or the grant review team when they're reviewing grants for the next year. So again, we really want you to be honest, but don't put anything down that you don't want somebody outside of us to read. I just saw a question come up, but I lost my chat box. Struggling today on this technology piece. Okay, that's a good question. For those of you who are agencies who are working with a CBA project lead, do you wait until they connect with you or send all the information to them? I would just reach out sooner rather than later and see their preference. Carmen, I don't know. Everybody does it a little bit differently. So figure out what's going to work best for you and the county leads for the CBA grant. If you are finished with your JS application and you're ready to send it on, you could certainly do that, jump ahead of the game a little bit, but my advice is always just to reach out and ask. Does anybody else have any other questions? All right, I don't see any more. I'll wait a few minutes. I'll hang out here on the meeting for a few minutes. Like I said, we'll get this video recording posted to our website, hopefully by next week. And if you have any questions while you're working on this, feel free to reach out to Chris, Jesse, or I. One of us if we can't answer your question, we'll get you to the person who can. And then look for that data for question 11 to come mid-July.